We're going to honor a couple of people tonight. The first one, I met in 1989 when I came onto the CNLA board, and I immediately had respect, and I was amazed then at the range of activities that this gentleman was able to carry on seemingly simultaneously. We brought him here under the guise that he was here to talk about Chekhov. And he also missed the 100th last year as one of the past presidents. So we're talking about Bruce McTavish. I want to give some early history. When I first met him, he was the BC Education Chair for the BC NTA at the time. And he was such a leader in that category. He helped create the BC School of Horticulture, the first of its kind in BC, where an entire college campus was based around horticulture, where they built an actual additional campus adjacent to feature horticulture. That was Kwantlen College at the time, now Kwantlen Polytechnic University. Because he was bored, he also eventually took a job there as an instructor in both business and horticulture, where he stayed for 20 years, just a little while. He also, I think at the time, because of the CNLA work he was doing with Canadian Hort Council, I think launched the BC Hort Council, which we did a lot of work with around education and labor issues and everything at the time. He was heavily involved in the BC production and landscape apprenticeship system. As a matter of fact, I think he was, before he talked me into taking the job, he was the chair of the TAC committee at the time with the Provincial Apprenticeship Board. And we were kind of forward thinking. We were really treated badly in landscape with apprenticeship issues. And we actually approached, at the time, the Provincial Apprenticeship Board with a program for them to fund us. At the time, it would have been the BCLNA or BCNTA, to develop a program to look after the needs of our sector's apprentices. I'll get a little bit more into that later. At the CNTA, he was also just approaching presidency, and he became president in 1999, where he stayed for 2 years. And then he still hung around because he wasn't quite done with us yet, all the way till August of 2014. So I think at the time of his retirement, he was also one of the longest serving CNLA members. I think over 25 years-ish. So he got passed by a couple of people since then, but that's beside the point. When, at that point in the CNLA, we were a staff of 2. We had an executive director and administrative assistant. And so we relied heavily, and I mean heavily, on volunteers to get things done. So Bruce was the lead liaison for the CNTA with the CFIA and government around our sector and horticulture, in fact. He did all of the Canadian Plant Protection Advisory Committee work, and we used to hate this at the CNLA meetings when the NAPO report came up, the North American Plant Protection Organization. It was the most boring report you could possibly imagine, but Bruce looked after the interests of Canada at the international table for plant protection to keep plants moving around North America, which we're still having problems with to this day, but Bruce did all of that as a volunteer as well. Through the 90s, as we learned today, those of us that were here earlier, 94 through 97, he led the charge across Canada on looking at a checkoff system to put an industry levy in for our industry to help make us more self-sufficient, more profit. That would have solved a lot of problems at the time because that raises a lot of money, and we're one of the only sectors left in Canada that doesn't have a checkoff system. He also spearheaded some research, made a trip with a small delegation down to California and I think into Washington State to look at the American Landscape Certification Program. And in 1994, because he didn't have a lot to do, we launched the Landscape Certification Program in Canada. We called it the CHT because the Americans had landscape. Canada, we want to do things better, so we called it Certified Horticultural Technician because we want to do retail and grower too. We did retail just a couple of years later. Growers took us a long time to get going, and that's never really got anywhere, but that's not Bruce's fault. When we got to the point of wanting to introduce a landscape manager, The Americans had a little bit of a program, but we really needed to upgrade it. So Bruce, well, he was actually under a paid contract at this time, still spearheaded the development of the 7 modules of the certification, the manager's certification program that still exists to this day. That's probably not all the highlights. I did want to bring back just one more thing. I mentioned the outline that we put into the Provincial Apprenticeship Board for horticulture to really look after its own apprentices. Quite a number of years later, I think 2004, 2005, that came back because we went through the Provincial Apprenticeship Board, and then we went even to a bigger failure called ITAC. And then the government at the time blew that whole thing up and came back with the Industry Training Authority. And they used the proposal that Bruce helped create to develop industry training organizations, and horticulture was the first one. In 2005, I think we started that. That led also to work around Red Seal apprenticeship and a lot of other activities. I think there's more, because I don't remember you before 1989 when you were already on the board for like 5 or 6 years. So please join me in bringing Bruce up. We're presenting him with the 2023 President's Award.
Where's my stool? So first of all, I couldn't figure out why Bill wanted me to come here and talk about Chekhov. I thought, I haven't worked on Chekhov for whatever it was, 1997, I think. And Bill said, no, you know all about this. So I studied, I read all the legislation. I spent days trying, and then I got 5 minutes to present. I thought, what is going on here? So now I know, Bill, thank you very much. So. But Bill, talked a lot about the things I did, but much like CNLA is now CNTA, then CNLA was full of people with incredible passion and incredible energy. And Bill and I were just talking at the dinner table. Everybody's got this A personality, and everybody's driven. So all the things that we did, and we only had 2 staff members. It's because I think we all drove each other. We drove each other crazy a few times, but and some of the funny thing, I won't take too long, but as I was walking up here, I was thinking when Bill said only 2 staff members, and some of you probably remember Chris Andrews. He was the executive director. Then Victor came along, and now Victor's got 18 employees to help. But Chris was amazing. Chris would open doors. Everybody loved Chris. But Chris couldn't write a briefing note if his life depended on it. So we would go to Ottawa, and we'd get the briefing notes and PowerPoint presentations. And Jeff Hicks and I, typically at that time, we're doing government relations. We'd spend half the night rewriting everything. We go, oh my God, what has this guy done? But he opened every single door, but we didn't. We also drank too much, and we sang too much, and we had so much fun. We really. The other thing, and then I will stop, and then I'll start crying if I don't stop. But CNLA, much like probably many of the board members now, it really was my family for almost 25 years. So it wasn't work. It was fun. It was passionate, and we all saw each other through children being born, wives being divorced, new wives coming along. But it was so for me to come here today. It really is. It's like a family reunion, and I really, really. Bill, thank you so much. It's so good to see all of you again. And, even in what I do now, I feel reinvigorated, being around all of the people that are so energized. And I kind of forgot what an exciting industry this is. I've kind of been a bit out of it doing other things. So, Victor, the board, thank you all. Thank you for doing so much in this industry. And maybe we'll have Chekhov second time around, and you'll have millions of dollars. Anyway, thank you so much.